Welcome. So I'm here just to add a little bit of value to your life, and we're going to cover problems. Right? We all want to sit down and talk about money, but nobody wants to actually have the conversation because I can do it on my own. I can look it up on my own. And a lot of times, me being a licensed financial professional, which I will have my national producer number here in the comments, down below the description, and my website as well, and my email so you can reach out to me if you have questions. So I recommend right now, if you want to take these few minutes to just hear some of the money problems, things that are plaguing everyone, that aren't just a you problem, they're things that we haven't been taught. Stop the video, go get a pen and paper, and if you write down more than two or three questions of like, I kind of need to know this stuff, not only for me, but maybe my parents who are retired or retiring, my adult children, my little kiddos, like, doesn't matter what stage of life that you're in. I promise you, one of these things to five of these things you're going to realize are a problem, right? And it's because we've all been given the same information and it doesn't help us to get financial freedom. And sometimes people are thinking, like, what is financial freedom? It's understanding that what you're doing, you actually know what the outcome is going to be, right? So some people think financial freedom means like, I got all the money in the world. No, financial freedom may be that you understand that the steps that you're taking every day intentionally will result in you retiring forever, will result in you getting out of debt. Sometimes we throw money in like a wishing well, hoping that it will achieve the goal that we've set for ourselves. And I find oftentimes with families that I speak with, it doesn't work. And it's not because they're not trying, and it's not because they're not smart. It's because the things they have been taught will not yield that result, right? They're doing the input. Every family I talk to is doing their part. But what they've been taught, where they've taught to input the money, is not in direct correlation of the outcome that they're seeking. So what we're going to do today is I can't give you the solutions for these problems because this is a general conversation, right? So if you want a solution, you're going to find my email in the description. You're going to email me money solutions as a subject. Introduce yourself to me like, hi, my name is Gabe Self. I live in Alabama, and I would like to have a meeting with me and my spouse so that I could ask you these questions. Because here's the thing about me, I don't speak in generalities and solutions. Because what's good for your family is not good for your neighbor's family. Everyone is at a different age from retirement, how much they want to do in retirement, how many kiddos they have, what they want to be financially responsible for, how they want to spend their money, invest their money, grow their money. So it would be very irresponsible for me to say, hey, these are solutions and everybody goes down this path. That is not true. I've not once ever had the same conversation with any family. Doesn't matter if it was a teacher, a nurse, a doctor, an attorney, a professional athlete, a single parent, double parent household. Doesn't matter if it's single adult, no children, retired adult, adult children. I promise you, I've never been like, this is what we're going to recommend for you. And the cool part is everything we do, you can see right here, there's a cross. You can see over my shoulder, Global Financial Impact. We'll have our website in the description, along with my personal website. So you can go click on there, see it. I'm gonna also put in my LinkedIn page and my Instagram because I'm a firm believer is you should be able to access who I am. Like there's no secrets. So my thing is if I say, hey, I'm this great Christian man, been a pastor for 20 years and I help people understand money without charging them, and we have complimentary resources and help. This isn't like a financial advisor. This is someone who's actually going to sit down, work with you, help you with some simple solutions, help you with like the meaty stuff, right? Not everybody has money to invest. Some people just need to be able to pay their bills, and that's what we do. And so many people won't go have a conversation with a financial professional because they think it costs them money. So here's the solution for most households is let's just talk about what you're doing, what your goals are, and if you're on track to actually have those done. It's that simple, right? And so if you go onto my LinkedIn and you see me commenting on things and acting a straight fool, then I'm not who I say I am. If you go on my LinkedIn, go on my Instagram, and I'm posting things that are not faith and family values, then probably don't give me a call, right? So I wanted to give you all of my information so you can stalk me properly, right? Go through this YouTube page, see that this whole YouTube page is full of encouragement. That's what I want to do. I want to help people. So I'm going to give you all the tools to do so. You're going to have my email. You're going to have all my socials. You have all that stuff to go look me up before you ever call me, including looking at my company. So sound fair? Awesome. Let's go ahead and jump into some of the problems that I deal with every day when I talk to families. Number one problem that most people have is when they get to retirement, they don't understand how their 401k, 403b, 457, how their TSP actually works. So all those are the same financial vehicle, but they just have different tax codes because a 401k is for like a corporate job, 403bs will be nonprofit, 457 tends to be municipal jobs like police officers, firefighters. That doesn't have to hold true. They can also have a 401k or 403b, but they're just a different tax code that falls under these. And then TSP is going to be military. So now that you kind of know that those are all similar to the same account, here's some of the things that we struggle with, right? Is that is an asset. And you're like, okay, correct. Well, the problem with that is if you were to file for bankruptcy, that retirement account is up for debate, right? So, like, you could lose that. It's an asset. The other thing is if you get divorced, that is an asset, which means that your spouse can take 50% of it. And I've even had a client where the spouse took all of it. Okay. I didn't know that's possible, but apparently it is in a certain state. No, I'm not going to say right now. But your spouse can take it all. And that was devastating for someone who had worked for 25 years of their life. It's closer to retirement and it's all gone. Okay. The other thing is this asset counts against you when you have kiddos and they're trying to go to college. So you're like, okay, I make $50,000 a year. My spouse makes $50,000 a year. That's not a lot of money in America now. So we should be able to qualify for some maybe grant some loans, some kind of whatever. And you get there and they're going to count you and your spouse's retirement accounts. That doesn't even seem fair. You're 45 years old and you have an 18-year-old, like, I don't know, retire for another 20, 30 years. That 401k isn't going to be money that I have access to pay off my kid's college, but yet it counts against you. And that's fun. Okay. So the other part about the 401k too is when you put your money in there, you can't touch it till you're 59 and a half without additional taxes and penalties. The other portion of that is not all of these accounts are equal. So you and your spouse may have the same account, a 401k, but you work for different companies. You may assume that your 401ks are similar. Oh, yours is with this company. Oh, ours is with this company. Doesn't matter. The contract is written for the company you work for. So your company, spouse A, might be like, okay, they can have hardship, meaning access to your 401k before 59 and a half. Again, you still have to pay additional taxes and penalties, but you can access it. Spouse B may have no hardship access, meaning doesn't matter what the situation is, ever, 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 you cannot touch that 401k till you're 59 and a half. No excuses. Right? Like, and you're like, I don't know which one mine is. Most people don't until they get diagnosed with something and their medical bills pile up. And after health insurance, they still got a $30,000 medical bill and then they can't touch their 401k. And you know what's crazy is I had a bunch of clients last year. They got diagnosed with cancer and they were all in the medical field. And guess where they all worked? At the same exact huge research hospital. And guess what they didn't have? Access to their money. So they all had the same 401k, no hardship access, meaning they went into debt. And these are people who make six figures, right? Like this isn't someone who's like just started off in their industry. I'm talking about these people make a good bit of money and they work in the medical field. And it doesn't matter. Their health insurance did not cover the full bill. And then now they're in debt. So we also have to talk about the number one reason Americans file for bankruptcy. It's medical debt. Are you starting to see a trend? right? It's just like, well, how does everybody, if we have health insurance and I'm paying for it every month out of my paycheck, my company's paying for it, and it still doesn't cover my medical bills. And then if I do get critical, chronic, or terminal illness, I get sick, I get ALS, I get MS, I get in a car accident, I have cancer, I get something, have a heart attack, a stroke. The number one reason that women pass away in the United States, you could take number one, okay, and number two, three, four, and five, and combine them. And they still don't take out as many as number one. What's the number one reason that women pass away in the United States? Heart disease. You want to know why? This is just a freebie right here. Do you want to know why women pass away with heart disease? Go to a CPR class. They're going to teach you what a heart attack looks like only in men. They do not teach you any of the signs of a heart attack in a woman. If you would like to know what a heart attack looks like in a woman, Google it, look it up. It looks like period pains. Women have been having cramps and periods since they were 12, 13 years old. So you're telling me somebody who's probably at 45, 50 years old, probably given birth, most likely, or at minimum had periods for 12 to 13 times for the last 35 years, right? And she feels, right, that's the time when women are going through menopause, perimenopause, all this stuff, right? So hormones out of whack, right? And it's just like, you know, your body, so you're like, oh, that's not normal, but it's normal in the context of my hormones are out of whack. And so what feels like lower back pain, what feels like cramping, what feels like a headache or a migraine, and this is day five of it, right? Those symptoms don't alert women like, hey, something's wrong with my body. They're like, I'm used to this pain. It's been years. And then what happens is those are actually mild heart attacks. And what goes on is then women ignore the 5 to 6 mini heart attacks till they have a major heart attack and it ends their life. And so those are the other things that we have to talk about. Like what happens to that 41-year-old mom like mine, who that happened to. My mom had many heart attacks, didn't know that they were, had a massive heart attack that killed her, and she died at 41 years old, leaving us without a parent. So then what do we do, right, as a family? Because guess what another statistic is? The number one reason that, like I said, that families file for bankruptcy is medical debt. Well, okay, well, what's the other statistic on the other side of that? If that person doesn't get sick, they just don't come home because they passed away. Well, within 3 to 5 years, if a breadwinner passes away, no matter if it's a single income household or a dual income household, if the person who passes away is a breadwinner, that family will go bankrupt in 3 to 5 years. Why? Because when that person passes away, they take their life insurance policy and say that person makes $50,000 a year. The surviving spouse, or if it's a single parent, the surviving grandparents, whoever's now taking care of the kids or the household or whatever, continues to pay the bills with that person's life insurance policy as if that person is still here. Do you see a problem with having a $500,000 life insurance policy on someone who made $50,000 a year? Okay, well, you now spend $50,000 paying all the bills. And guess what? The next year you spend $50,000 paying the bills, and you're just slowly eating away at their life insurance. Well, guess what's going to happen is they're not putting more money in that pocket. They're not having a salary. They don't have an income. So at some point you run out of money. And because you're grief stricken because you lost your child and you're now a grandparent raising their kids, because you're a spouse and you lost your spouse, you're still grieving and you're still trying to hold your life together, still trying to console your spouse's parents and then console your own children. You're not thinking about money like you miss your spouse and you're trying not to completely fall apart in front of your children, right? And these things go on every day and no one says what the solution is. I mean, I have all these solutions, by the way. I'm not just bringing up problems. So again, write these things down, right? It's like, I want to know the solution is to this, right? Um, some other things that we want to talk about as well is get back into assets is when you go to, um, like I said, if you go to get a divorce, that your retirement account is up for debate. But if you file for bankruptcy, up for debate, it's up for debate with your kids' college. It's also up for debate against your Social Security. When you go to your Social Security, because that is a federal account that's paying you, right? You're like, oh, I paid in my Social Security. Good for you. Here's the truth is your Social Security, you can make enough money or have enough assets where you don't qualify for Social Security at all, even though you paid into it your whole life. So they say, okay, Gabe, you qualify for $2,000 Social Security, but you made about this much money a year and you have $800,000 in asset. Therefore, you do not qualify for Social Security. So we're going to give you zero. There's the amount of money I can make that you're not going to give me money I paid into. Yes, because it's a federal account. And by the way, we didn't have an option to pay in Social Security. It all comes out of our check. So it's like, I didn't ask you to take the money, and you're not going to give me what I qualify for because I have too many assets. Correct. So let's just say you have a 401k with $400,000 in it. And they say, okay, Gabe, you qualify for $2,000 of Social Security. You have $400,000 401k. So we're going to give you $1,200 a month. Well, you're going to take money out of the Social Security? Yep, because you have a 401k. Okay. So now most people only have about $183,000 set aside for retirement. That's number one. That's a problem because if you make $50,000 a year, 180,000, I just want to let you know that math doesn't equal retirement. So most people go to retire and then are back in the workplace 3 to 5 years later. So let's just say I had more than that, right? The 400,000. So I made $50,000 a year, I have $400,000 in my 401k, and I'm getting now, not my 2,000, I'm only getting my 1,200. Guess what's going to happen? I'm going to live my lifestyle like I would still make $50,000 a year. This is how it is. And that $400,000 isn't really 400,000 because guess what I haven't done? You got it. I haven't paid taxes. And most people are like, oh, well, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket when I'm retired. No, you're not. That was only true back in the 70s and 80s when the income tax was much higher because the income tax was through the roof during World War II. At one point, our income tax was 94%. And then between World War II and Vietnam and the Cold War, it only dropped over 30 years to in the low 70s. So at some point, they thought they're never getting their money back. And that's when the 401k came in. And it wasn't for your benefit, it was for the company's benefit. So it was built for employers, okay, to get their tax benefits and to convince you that if you put your money in there, that you get a tax write-off and you'd be in a lower tax bracket when you're retired. And that's true if this was 50 years ago. Not true now, because most people fall in the 22 to 24%. And guess what happens? Again, if Gabe makes $50,000, guess what happens when I go to file my taxes? I got kiddos. So guess what? Mortgage, tax deduction. Kiddos, tax deduction. Guess what I'm not going to have at 65 that I have now, being a kid of the 80s, right? You're in the most debt in your life between like 25 and 50 because you have responsibilities. But once you get past that, those things start to get paid off, right? You're not in debt anymore. And so you get to 65 and you're retired, and guess what? My house is paid off. Guess what? My kids are adults. I got grandchildren. I don't have those deductions. So where I used to make $50,000 a year, and then after all my deductions, I'm only getting taxed on $30,000 a year. I'm now making $50,000 a year as a retired person, and I don't have any deductions. So see how the problem is? You're actually going to be paying more in taxes. So now at 400,000, I still got to pay taxes on all of that. And when it runs out, guess what the government doesn't do? They don't go, okay, hey, Gabe, you ran under your 401k. We're going to bump your 1,200 back up to the original 2,000. They do not adjust it. So you're stuck forever with the 1,200. And now there are people that retired at 65 that are returning to the workforce at 72, 75 years old. And they're having to work. They don't want to be there. But no one can live off of $1,200 a month. And I'm going to let you know the people that I'm talking to, they get less than $1,200 a month. Those are the people who made more than $15,000, $60,000 in their career. So if they made like $30,000 or $40,000 in their career, because again, it's a different generation, right? And there's the inflation and everything. But I've seen people who are only bringing home $700 to $800 a month. I've seen people who are only bringing $1,100 a month, and it's a couple, and no one can live off of that. Even if all your bills were paid, you still have to pay like electricity, groceries, water. Like, even if your cars are paid off, your mortgage paid off, you still have to pay for insurance on those things. Like, it's a problem. Okay. So, again, I have solutions for all this stuff that we have to talk to individually depending on families. Again, there's not a blanket solution for every single person. We can talk through what your needs are, what your family needs are, what your parents' needs are. All these conversations are available, but these are some things that I just want to bring up so that you can say, like, I didn't even know that was something I need to face or have a conversation about, right? Same thing with 529 plans for kiddos, which is like a Gerber account. You have to read the fine line because if they don't go to accredited school, you're not getting that money, right? And your kid goes to trade school, or your kid wants to own their own company, or your kid wants to go to the military. You got to read the fine print on those accounts because you're not getting what you put into them. So what's the result for that? How do we help our kiddos be successful? How do we help our kiddos have access to the same amount of money, but for the one who wants to open their own salon, or the one who wants to go be a master electrician, or the one who wants to have a diesel truck repair shop, or the kid who wants to have a gap year and go travel to Europe? All of our kids are different. Kids are split up into quarters, right? A quarter of kids, they probably need to go to college because they're career requires a degree. What careers require a degree? An attorney, a doctor, right? Like there are careers that you have to have a master's or a PhD to do, and you can't get into those programs unless you have an undergrad degree. So those kids have to go. Okay. There's a quarter of kids who are really, really good with their hands and really good at making stuff and building stuff, and they want to be outside and they're more creative. Like, let's send those kiddos to trade schools. Let's get excited to be able to pay for, hey, I know you're going to go to a 2 year school for being a master electrician or a plumber or a welder. And in that meantime, I've got this amount of money you can live off of because they'll get paid a little bit, right? They don't get paid the amount they will once they're actually licensed and bonded and everything. But they can have their own independence, their own apartment, and it's not coming out of your pocket. And you can have that account and you can help those kiddos out and help them teach them, life skills along the way. And then once they're making those six figures, then they can buy their own house and all. And then we're not putting kids in debt or putting them behind, or parents are splitting the bill for kids to take a less traditional route, right? For some reason, somewhere in the last 30 years, everyone started going to college, and not everyone needs to go to college, right? Do you know who makes the most amount of money? People with a license, right? Electrician license, a real estate license, a life insurance license, uh, a financial license, right? Like a license, like being a CNA. Those things, like having a license, will get you further than a degree because when you come out of the degree, that is not a guaranteed job, and it's a guaranteed debt unless you're paying for it in cash. And the other quarter of the kids need to just go get a job, right? They don't want to go to college. They don't want to be electricians. They need to just go work and work their way up the ladder. And then a quarter of the kids need to find themselves, right? Those are kids we need to pray for. We need to say, like, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this kid? Some of those kids need to come like shadow us at our own companies we own. They need to go work for a friend. They need to go, explore, go hike for a year. They need something, right? We all have like kids with different personalities, and we can't shove our kids into the same, assembly line and expect our kids to be happy and successful, right? I don't know about you, but if you have multiple children, those jokers do not have the same personality. You cannot encourage and discipline those kids the same way because they have their own emotions, they have their own way of acting and reacting. Some kids are very cuddly and lovey, some kids are like, don't touch me. Some kids, they need to hear affirmations constantly. Some kids just they want to hear when you think they do it extremely well, but not like the regular basis, right? They don't want the fluff. And so I know for sure for me, I got one that's just like, I don't have to encourage, just gets it done. And I got one who wants to show me every step of the way, no matter what it is, how well they're doing, right? And I think that that's awesome. But I know for sure my kids are going to be on two very different paths when they're graduating high school. And guess what? I'm prepared for both of them. I already know where they're going. I know what they're doing. I'm encouraged. My kids are very talented and intelligent. and their intelligence and the way that they think has led them to two different career paths. But both my kids are capable and both my kids are able, and I want to give them a leg up by preparing them for the path that I know that they're going to take. I don't want to I don't want to stop them from doing the things that I know that they succeed at because I was not financially prepared to help them achieve those things. Okay. So, other things that we want to chat about as well is where we put our money. Is your money growing? Is your hard-earned money working for you? Is your money, when you put your money into a bank, right? What is that account used for? Because that account is only insured up to 250,000. So if you're using that account for anything other than paying your bills, you're losing money. And where do I need to put my money for my money to grow, work hard for me, and be safe? Because if I had $1 million in my bank account and the bank went bankrupt, then the federal law is that they have to pay me up to 250,000. So they technically could pay me a penny and they would satisfy the up to 250,000. Because how many times has the federal government ever given the full amount to anyone? I'm just going to be very honest with you, right? So we got to talk about these things. How do I make sure that my retirement account or my account for my kiddos doesn't work against me, isn't counted as an asset, isn't hindering or hurting other things that I need to be accomplishing? How do I make sure that I retire on time? Because I'm just going to let you know, my current clients, I had a client, and I'll just give you this specific example, but this is how all my clients are. We sit down and look at their financial breakdown. All of them are putting money into a financial vehicle. The ones that we talked about at the beginning, 401ks, 403bs, all that, they're putting it into the traditional vehicles through their workplace. I'm able to see what they're doing and how much money they're putting in there. And then I'm able to see if we have a financial vehicle that will get them to retirement, same amount of money that they're putting in there now, that will get them there more quickly. So let's just give you one example because I have hundreds and we're about to end this right now with this conversation. Had a client, 403b teacher. Side note, if you are a teacher, there's one person in your state that sits at your state capitol that controls every single 403b for the whole entire state. The state that I was talking about this specific teacher, so we're licensed in all 50 states, Canada, Central America, South America, everything will be fully in Africa, Europe, and Asia by the end of 2026. But anyway, this person is in the United States, and they are in a state where about 4 years ago, that one person, he was in charge of their money, lost anywhere between $30,000 to $45,000 per teacher in their retirement accounts, depending on how much money the teacher had in there. One person made a decision that lost tens of thousands of people money. That's ridiculous. So, and irresponsible, just to be honest with you. So, other part about it is I looked at what she was currently putting in there and where she was on. And if the market never crashes again, by the way, the market repeats itself every 20 years. So guess what time when the market crashed the last time? Oh, wait. So guess what we're close to? 20 years. So within the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see another crash in the market. It's just every 20 years, the market has a trend. Okay. So I'm looking at best case scenario, the market doesn't crash between now and her retirement. Okay. She's 50 years old. So now in her retirement is 15 years. It's going to happen in that time frame. But I estimated that it didn't happen. Best case scenario for her is she was going to retire at 67. Okay. And then she was going to have 65, but depending on like her pension, all this stuff, everything together, she's going to have $6,500 a month. Now, she's someone who works at a much higher level, makes a really great amount of money. She makes over six figures a year. She's worked her way up to the college level and she's top of what she does. Okay. So she was able to have $6,500 a month for 12 years. So what happens if she lived to 89 years old? It's 12 years. She's out of money. Now, I don't know about you, but this person that I'm talking to, her parents are already very close to that age, and they're in amazing health. Like, and they travel the world and they do stuff. So like her family doesn't die young, so they don't like die in their 60s and 70s. Like her parents are still alive and thriving. And I mean, I think her parents didn't even retire until like a few years ago, and now they're like traveling all around the world. So they're in really good health. So that it just, and then she works in athletics and she's works out every day. She's in really good health. So I don't see her in a, unless when it comes to just like, no, of course, accidents happen, but health wise, there's nothing that runs in her family that's going to affect her right now at an earlier age. So we're looking at her living till 90 is a good probability, and she's out of money. So we took the same amount of money that she's contributing now into her 403b, and we put it into our computer program. And we showed the difference between the account that she's currently using versus the account that I thought would yield her better results. And at that point, we just looked over it together, just math. It's not emotional. And then she made a decision on staying with where she was at or taking the same contribution and putting it into an account that would get her to retirement more quickly. She made the decision. I make zero decisions for you. We're not married. So we don't make decisions for your household. You do. And everything that you agree to do is in your name. So Gabe has no control over your money. I never touch your money, see your money. If you have that account, it's in your name only. You're the only one who has power over it, anything that we do here. So I just want to be very, very clear. Gabe does not touch your money. I don't want your money. I'm not touching it. There's no way for me to even touch it. The way that we set up everything is all in your control, as it should be. I should not have access to your money. Okay. So we look at this account and she's like, yeah, I want to take the money I'm using right now in my 403b and I want to put it in this account so I can retire more quickly. Got it. So what is the end result? Now she's going to retire at 62. So what did we do? Number one, we gave her 5 years back of her life. How many of you guys would not want to wait 5 years to retire? How many of you guys would want to retire at 62 if you knew you only had the money to retire at 67? I don't think most people are going to be like, yeah, because by the way, just because you're retired doesn't mean you can't go to work. You can go do other things that you consider work, like gardening. You can go work at the golf shop. You can do whatever you want to, but knowing that you don't have to do those things, right? That's the difference. So at 62, she's gonna retire with $9,500 a month. So not only is she retiring 5 years earlier, now she's getting a guaranteed $9,500 a month. That's $3,000 more. Here's the kicker is now she's going to have money forever. So there isn't, she runs out of money at 90, she runs out of money at 95 for the whole entire life. She'll always get the $9,500 a month and leave several $100,000 behind. That's the thing we want to do because right now, most people are retiring later, being retired for 5 years and going back to work. Instead of instead of filling out their information for flights and cruises and vacation homes to go with their grandkids and great grandkids. They're filling out applications to go back to work. They're moving in with their kids because they can't afford to live on their own. They are financially becoming a burden to the people around them. And they've worked their whole entire life. No one that had a career should be left as a senior and be a financial burden to anyone. They didn't work that hard and earn everything they did for them to be dependent upon somebody else. And they are physically incapable of taking care of themselves. Now, it's very different if they need help because their health has deteriorated. That's a whole different conversation. But we're talking about someone who is healthy and strong and able and has their independence, and they're having to make these choices. Now, what we know we can make that decision for that 50-year-old, and we changed that for her, and now we're looking at the future. But how do we help that person that's already retired? Right? We had a client who had a 401k. They were getting 750 a month out of the 401k. They were a couple. That's not enough to live on. We were able to look at their money and their accounts and everything. We were able to make that one simple change, and now they get $5,000 a month every month, and they're never going to run out of money. Same amount of money, different financial vehicle, different solution. So it's not about, hey, you need to do more. No, 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 no. We need to look at what you're doing because you're probably doing everything right. You're probably paying off your debt the right way. You're probably saving money the right way. You're probably investing in your future the right way. But you might not know that you could take the same amount of effort and put it in the right place in the right strategy and have that go further. I have clients who I have they were going to get out of debt and the way that they were doing it, the amount of money they were spending to do it, they're going to get out of debt in 3 years and 4 months. 3 years and 4 months. We enacted the plan, same amount of money, and they got out of debt in 9 months. And on the 11th month, they went to Mexico for a month. That's how much money they had, right? So they went to Mexico for a month. They both took off all of December of 2025 and went out of the country. We have another client who was 6 years, 1 month. That's how long it was going to take them to get out of debt. Their current payments took the same amount of money, different strategy, got them out of debt in 3 years. Now they're not out yet. They still have, I think, 14 months left to get out of debt. But that's better than having another 4 years after that, right? Or another 3 years after that. So our job is to look at what you're doing, listen to what your goals are, confirm that you're already on the way to get there the fastest route as possible. But if you're not, we're going to look at the same tools you're using. Maybe you put $50 a month in your savings account. Okay, well, that account only goes 1.5% to 3%. What if we take that same $50 and put in an account that grows it at 7%? Same $50, you're going to have more money in 10 years than you would keeping it. Those are the simple things that we're looking at. We're not looking at saying, hey, Gabe, you're doing everything wrong. Fix the way you're doing it. You have no idea what you're doing. No, 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 no. We need to look at what you're doing because I promise you, you're trying your best. And sometimes you just need someone to say, hey, you're doing it right. I had a client who came to me with millions of dollars, and she said, my husband just passed away. My grandson used to be in your youth group, and he recommended you to me. And I've had four separate financial advisors tell me to move my money. Okay. All right. What do you need from me? So can you look at all my stuff, all my accounts, and tell me what you recommend? So I went through it all and I sat down with her and I said, hey, my recommendation is not to touch your money, not to move it. It's already doing everything you want it to do. And being a very intelligent lady, she said, why are you the only one who told me not to do it? She goes, you're the outlier. Like all four of them told me to do the exact same thing. You're the one telling me to do something different. So why should I trust you? And I was just very, very blunt with her because I was like, okay, well, let's just math be math and like, let's go over it. If you move your money and do that, the amount of commission and stuff that they're going to get, right? It doesn't, that's what's going to happen. Like the recommendation is because of what they're going to gain. It actually doesn't help you get closer to any of your goals. You told me what your goals are, and your husband left you money to complete all of those goals as it is, as the accounts stand. So I actually would be hindering you getting to those goals more quickly if I were to move your money. Now, if you had different goals, that we might have to do something with one of those accounts. But the goals that you have right now for the next 30 years, you are on track to hit them as the best way you possibly can. There's nothing I would change. You're doing everything right. Your husband knew what he was doing. Everything's perfect for how you want to live your life. Now, 2 years from now, that changes and you have a different goal. Come to me and we'll see if you're still on track to hit that goal with your current breakdown. But where you're at right now, it's not going to benefit you. And I explained everything to her, and she goes, okay, well, now I feel confident. So she left that meeting feeling confident that no one's going to trick her into doing something with her money she didn't want to. No one's going to convince her because she knew where her money was. She knew what it was doing, and that it was going to get her to her goal. No one had ever explained that to her. And all the other four people that she talked to, they never even told her why moving the money. That they looked at her age, they looked at the fact that her husband dealt with her finances her whole entire life. They looked at the fact that it was millions of dollars. They looked at the fact that she'd never worked a day in her life. They looked at the fact that she's, missing her husband, and they wanted to just tell her what to do. It's not my job to tell you what to do. It's my job to listen to your goals, educate you on your options, and confirm that you're doing your best. It is not my job to teach you, or it's not my job to convince you. It's my job to teach you, right? It's not my job to like trick you into something or saying like, hey, I really, really, really think you should do this. I actually present everything, go over it, break it down, and then give it to you to review. So you can go look it up on the internet, look things up, review it. We don't make decisions, right? I help you understand if a possibility is available and then go talk to everybody, right? That's why we don't do meetings with just one person if they're a couple. Both people have to be there because I don't think you're going to re-explain things the way that I do with a license to your spouse. And we want you to both be on the same page because how you do your money affects them. Because we always look at your finances in these three ways as well. What happens if you don't come home today? What happens if you get sick tomorrow and can't go to work and you need treatment or you become dependent upon the person and need a caretaker? What happens if you never get sick and you live forever? So, those three things we have to look at your money and we have to be able to say your family's safe. If you passed away today, they're good. Your family's safe if you get sick tomorrow and can't work. Your family's safe and all the things that you want to do with your life are great if you live until you're 110. If I can't say that with all the things that you're currently doing, we have something to talk about. So if you have questions, again, go in there, find my email, put in money solutions, because the only thing we talked about today was problems. And everybody may have the same problems, but the solution for your family isn't the same as the solution for your neighbor. So I want to make sure you understand. I gave you stories of families we did help, and there's, like I said, hundreds more because I have these conversations all day, every day. But I want you to understand that you're not the anomaly, right? You fall in the majority. So don't think that whatever you bring to the table is like, well, I'm the only one who's dealing with this, or I got this question. I feel like it should be obvious, or I looked it up online and I really understand it and I don't want to ask it now, or I don't understand it. Listen, the crazy thing about online is that is not going to speak into your specific situation. Make sure that you get to a licensed professional. If I'm not your cup of tea, that's fine. You can tell me in the email, like, hey, I really like what you do. I don't really like you. Right? Like, I would like someone who is maybe a woman who's in her 30s or a woman who's in her 50s, or I would like someone who culturally responds to me. Listen, I'm a Southerner, right? I speak sweet tea and cornbread. You might not like that. You might be from New England and you want someone who talks a lot faster than me. You might want someone who doesn't talk as much as me, right? Like that's cool. Like I'm okay with that. Put that in there and I'll connect you with a teammate who fits that description because we want someone who feels like family, someone who looks like us and sounds like us and makes us think, okay, this person knows what I've been through. And I might not be that person for you, but you still might want my help. And that means that I will give you the person that you're like, hey, I kind of want a gentleman who is a little bit older than you, right? I don't want someone who was, an 80s baby who can still use a rotary phone and knows what a cassette tape is and appreciates records and, still memorize their home phone number back in the day. Like us latchkey kids, like, okay, cool. We're not everybody's cup of tea. We're funny. We think we are, but we're in the middle. Like we have the parents that are retiring and we have kids. So I might not be in the stage of life you want me to be in to talk to you about money, and that's fine. Let me know who you want to connect with because we've got people on our team that are single parents. We've got people on our team that are, of a different age demographic. People on our teams who you might want someone who has more kids, like maybe five kids, right? We have those people on our team too. I've only got two kiddos. So, and mine are amazing. Like I said, kindergarten and sixth grade. So they're really funny. And I love being, an uncle as well, and being the fun uncle. But it is what it is. So let me know how I can help you. Send me that email, and I would love to give you resources, connect you with a meeting. And by the way, we do everything on Zoom, and we will meet you on your time frame. So it doesn't matter where you're at, we will make it happen. I've had meetings at 2 o'clock in the morning because those people work different shifts. Listen, we're going to meet you where you're at because your family matters. Have a blessed day, and we hope that God blesses you in so many ways that you are overwhelmed with abundance.